Episode 21. Do you want me to feed you? Dario was turned on by their kiss. Jade smiled and said seriously, "Of course I know. I want to kiss you and have sex with you." She thought that rather than being sold to a rich old man by her family, she might as well give her most valuable thing to this handsome man first. At least he had helped her before, and in his eyes, he was still her benefactor. If she really had to lose her virginity, she would rather give it to him. Actually, at that moment, she was willing to give it to him. "You want to have sex with me?" Dario squinted his eyes and, despite his calm face, felt surprised deep down in his heart. "Yeah, I want to have sex with you. I would rather give my virginity to you than to someone who disgusts me." Jade's eyes flickered as she pounced on Dario once again and kissed his lips aggressively. Her kiss seemed inexperienced, as though she was just messing around. This time, Dario did not push her away. Instead, he pinned her down on the sofa and started to kiss her deeply. His kiss was so domineering, it was like he wanted to suffocate her. He constantly licked every corner of her mouth with his nimble tongue, and all of his movements stimulated Jade's mind. Jade did not choose to give up, even though she was faced with such an offensive kiss. Instead, she tried her best to imitate his actions. There was a minty flavor in his mouth, which made her feel relaxed. As time went by, she could no longer resist him. Because his kiss was too passionate, Jade felt numb on the tip of her tongue, and her mouth was filled with his breath. Just when she was almost at her limit, Dario finally let go of her lips. He looked at her red, swollen lips, then moved towards her earlobes and gently kissed them. She felt numbness spread all over her body. "Are you sure you want to do this with me?" Dario whispered in her ear with his deep, seductive, and alluring voice. Jade grabbed her dress tightly and closed her eyes. She trembled as she spoke to him. "Yes, I'm sure." "Then don't regret it." Dario glanced at the tears in the corners of her eyes and carried her back to his room. He then threw her onto the bed and pinned her down. She could feel her muscular body pressing against hers, and she nervously grabbed onto her dress with her eyes closed. Her body was so stiff that he could not spread her legs open. Dario tried touching the sensitive parts of her body to ease her, but her brows were tightly knit. Jade waited for him to do something. However, just when she thought he would take the next level, he suddenly stopped. The room was completely quiet, and she could feel him leaving her body. She then opened her eyes and noticed Dario was already sitting on the side of the bed without a trace of emotion on his face. She thought that the one who kissed her deeply a minute ago did not seem like the same person at all, since he was just sitting there and did not seem interested in her. Jade sat up and looked at him without saying a word. Because she was feeling dizzy, she had to prop herself up on the bed to keep herself from falling. "Why didn't you continue?" Jade asked softly after a while. Dario turned around, and she could see a trace of anger in his indifferent gaze. He seemed to be mad. But why was he mad? "Why? It's obvious that you didn't want to have sex with me." Jade lowered her head and said nothing as she bit her lower lip. She did not dare to answer him because she could not hide her thoughts from him. He could see right through her. "Remember, I'm not interested in having sex with a woman who is unwilling. It's better to face the dead than the soulless ones," Dario said without any expression on his face, as his pearl black eyes became even colder. "I'm sorry," Jade said as tears filled her eyes. So in his eyes, she was not even comparable to a corpse. "I don't know what your intention was, but I'm warning you. Don't do it again or I'll break your legs," Dario warned her with a burning fire in his eyes. Jade sensed a strange feeling in his ice-cold words. Dario took the quilt from the bed and threw it in the direction of Jade. The quilt covered her whole body and made everything pitch black before her eyes. She stayed under the quilt for quite a while and only lifted it off when she felt suffocated. When she lifted the quilt, she found that Dario had already gone to the bathroom. She buried her head in the blanket again and let the tears soak into the quilt. He must be very disappointed. He must have thought that she was a cheap woman. Jade stuck her fingers and shoved her nails into the palm of her hand. Only pain would sober her up. She felt ashamed when she thought of the time when she threw herself into his arms. She could hear punching sounds coming from the bathroom. About 5 minutes later, she saw Dario walking out of the bathroom with a sullen face and a towel wrapping around his lower body. He opened the door and left the room right away. She had no idea where he went. He did not even spare Jade a glance when he walked out as if she were invisible. Jade forced a smile and thought that he probably never wanted to see her again. Right. Who would like a woman like her? Jade, you are really too shameless, she said to herself. She reached out her arms and wiped off her tears. She thought that it was time for her to leave. But just when her feet touched the floor, that ice bag face appeared before her again. Get back on the bed now, Dario said impatiently as he frowned. He only glanced away from her for a second. What was she trying to do? Jade was petrified and did not know what he was going to do, but she obediently sat back down on the bed. Dario passed a steaming cup to her and said in a casual yet commanding voice, "Drink it." Jade was speechless. She took the cup and sniffed it. Then she realized it was ginger tea. Just when she was stupefied, Dario's indifferent voice rang past her ears again. "If there's any left over, I'll break your legs. Drink it now." Seeing that Jade did not drink it, Dario said impatiently, "Why aren't you drinking it? Do you want me to feed you?" When he finished speaking, he tried to snatch the cup from her hand, but Jade avoided it and responded, "It's hot." Episode 22. The CEO's Enemy. Jade waited until the tea cooled down slightly and then drank it in one gulp. When she was done, she held the cup in front of him and turned it upside down to show him that she had finished it. Dario looked at her and said something unexpected. "Aren't you afraid that I put poison in it?" Jade was stunned but smiled right away. When he saw her smile, Dario's cold eyes became much gentler and the gloominess on his face disappeared. "Do you really trust me that much?" She was confident that he would not do such a thing to her, just as she was confident when he said he would throw her out of the car. Dario glanced at her palm with his sharp eyes and then forcefully pulled her hand. Jade tried to escape and hide her palm away, but Dario forced her to open it. When Jade opened her palm, Dario saw that it was covered in blood and that her nails were dyed with blood too. How was it so obvious? Dario grabbed her wrist and warned her, "If you dare to do that again, I'll chop off your hands." When he finished speaking, he took out the first aid kit, sterilized, and bandaged her palm. Jade felt that her heart was slowly being conquered by this man because no one had ever treated her so gently. "Why did you do that just now?" Dario asked in a low voice while wrapping her palm in gauze. Her palm trembled in his. She knew what he was thinking about, so her heart trembled. She lowered her eyes and head until they could not be any lower. She felt a stabbing pain in her heart when he mentioned it. She could not lose her grandmother, but she did not want to lose herself either. "Rather than marrying an old man who's been divorced twice by force, I might as well choose you. At least you've helped me before and I'm grateful to you, really." Jade raised her teary eyes that were filled with sadness and despair. Dario did not know what could make such a young and beautiful lady have such an expression. Jade laughed self-deprecatingly and said with slight embarrassment, "You do think I'm very cheap, don't you?" Bruce said the same thing, and that she was despicable. She was beginning to feel the same way herself. Yesterday, she took the initiative to kiss him and even slept in the same bed as him. Now, she wanted to have sex with him? Anyone, no matter who it was, would feel that she was cheap. But Dario did not think so. He looked into her teary eyes with his gloomy gaze and said indifferently, "No, you're just drunk." He then smirked and his pupils contracted. "What's the matter? Do you care about what I think of you that much?" "I didn't," Jade said with a slight blush on her cheek as she lowered her head. Why did he always say something that would mislead her? She opened up her right hand, but just as she was about to clasp her palm, Dario instantly grabbed it tightly. Whenever she felt nervous, she would clasp her palm. Sometimes she didn't notice that she'd done so even when she was injured, but Dario could immediately tell what she was going to do next. "Did you forget what I just said?" Dario's attitude was unyielding. It was as if he wanted to chop off her hand immediately. Jade loosened her grip on her palm and suppressed her desire to clasp it. It was a habit she developed when she was a child. It would be difficult for her to change it all at once. "If you don't want to have sex with me, then why did you kiss me?" Jade asked in a soft and delicate voice. Her words sounded like she was blaming him. Dario raised his eyebrows and lifted her chin with his finger, and then he said gently, "Don't lower your head." "Oh!" "Yesterday, you kissed me forcefully and pinned me to the ground. Today, you've treated me unruly. Don't you think that's unfair?" Jade was speechless once again. What forceful kiss? What was unruly? Why did he make her sound like a rascal? Did he really kiss her because he wanted equality? His reasoning was truly not something that ordinary people could understand. Forget it. I won't say it anymore. She was no match for him anyway. Dario felt funny when he saw her somewhat angry. Then he reached out his hand to wipe off the tears from the corner of her eyes and pat her head. When he touched Jade's cheek with his warm fingers, she could not help but feel shocked. She stared at him like a little bunny. Once again, she felt like her heart was pounding out of her chest. Dario brushed her silky hair as they got closer. The atmosphere of the room turned stuffy, and just when he was about to kiss the tear stains on her face, a sharp voice suddenly rang outside of his window. A boy's voice broke the silence and said, "My most handsome uncle in the entire universe, have you returned? Come and play with me." Jade was astonished and startled by the voice outside the window. What was going on? When she looked at Dario, his face was full of helplessness and fear. Jade found it funny. What was going on? Could it be possible that there was someone he was afraid of? "He's my sister's child. He'll be staying with me for a few days." Dario revealed a pained expression. His sister always went traveling without him and threw her child here in his house. Oh? As soon as I finished speaking, a small shadow scuttled through the French window. A voice said, "Uncle, I know you're in there. I've asked the butler. If you ignore me, I'll tell my mum that you bullied me." Then a child about 5 or 6 years old appeared before them. Jade glanced at Dario and noticed that his face had sunk and turned dark. After the little boy entered the room, he turned on all the lights. He first saw Dario, then his gaze stopped at Jade, as if he were curious about what they were doing. For a moment, awkwardness filled the room, and the three of them stared at each other without saying a word. "Wow, where did such a beautiful woman come from? Uncle, is she an angel?" The little boy earnestly asked as he looked at Dario in surprise. Jade was dumbfounded by his praise. An angel? No one had ever flattered her like that before. Why were all the men in this family so good at flattery? "Uncle, who is she?" Before the little boy could finish speaking, Dario interrupted him with his indifferent voice. "Get out!" The little boy ignored him and happily ran to Jade's side. As he blinked his big round eyes, he smiled and said, "Hello, Angel. I'm Leopold and my nickname is Leo. My mum also sometimes calls me Little Darling. All right, I have another nickname that Uncle gave me. He always calls me Little Brat." Episode 23. "Angel, it's Leo." "Leo." Dario shouted out his name as if he were suppressing his anger. The little boy turned his head around and giggled. "Yes, Uncle? Are you calling me? Wow, you actually called me by my name instead of Little Brat." "Get out and don't make me repeat myself again." Jade clearly saw his indifferent face twitching because of the child. "Why? I still want to play with my angel," the little boy said in confusion. However, the moment he saw that Dario's eyes looked like he was about to beat someone up, Leo sensed that something was wrong and took a step back. "All right, since the most handsome uncle in the entire universe is busy, I won't disturb you any longer." The boy lowered his head and looked a little disappointed. However, just as he was about to walk towards the door, Dario said without emotion, "Just go back where you came from." "Oh?" The boy turned back and walked towards the balcony. Jade felt anxious and stared at Dario reproachfully. She said to him, "How could you bully a child?" Dario remained silent, but the corner of his mouth twitched. "Bully?" She did not know who the real bully was. Jade was worried and followed Leo out to see where he went and realized that the boy's room was just next door. The two rooms were connected by a spacious balcony without a gap between them, so it was easy to climb over. Dario locked the French windows, closed the curtains, and turned off the lights. His face sank, and in an instant, the room became even darker. Although the little boy interrupted the romantic atmosphere, Jade felt a lot more restful now. "Go back to bed," Dario said in a commanding tone as he stared at her bare feet. Oh, she was already getting used to his commanding tone, so Jade returned to her bed obediently. Then Dario also got in the bed, with only a towel wrapped around his lower body. Jade immediately jumped up from the bed and asked anxiously, "What are you doing?" Dario rolled his eyes at her and thought that she was just spouting nonsense. "Going to sleep, of course. Then why are you sleeping next to me?" "This is my bed." Jade froze for a moment and thought about what he said. Right, it was his bed. She immediately got out of bed. "Then I should leave now since I don't want to disturb your sleep." "Where are you going?" "Stay here." Jade lowered her head. She felt a little embarrassed and said, "I don't like sleeping with others." Dario looked at her shy expression through the dim light, and his gaze became even darker. "Do you think I want to sleep with you?" Dario's words made Jade speechless. With that, he stood up and said, "I'll sleep in the other room then. Tonight, this room belongs to you." After that, he really walked to the door and intended to leave. Jade awkwardly sat on the bed, not sure whether to lie down or to leave. Did she just kick Dario out of his room? "Thank you," Jade said as she looked at his back while he left. However, she could not describe her gratitude in words. He saved her soul and took her in when she was in her most miserable state. She really did not know what to say other than thank him. "Go to sleep," Dario said plainly as he twisted the door handle. "By the way, I still don't know your name." Just as he was about to leave, Jade remembered that she still did not know his name. The accident 5 years ago led her to fall for the wrong man, Bruce. This time, she definitely would not make the same mistake again. She wanted to carve his name in her heart and remember it well. Although she might not be able to find the person who saved her 5 years ago, the person who saved her that night was right in front of her eyes. Therefore, she felt she must learn his name. Dario turned around with his gaze darkened. "Once you know it, you must remember it for the rest of your life." It was only just a name, but Dario made it sound like a lifetime promise. Jade looked at his serious face and replied softly, "Of course." "Dario Foster. If you dare to forget it, know there will be consequences." "Dario Foster. Okay, I've remembered it. I'll never forget." Jade recited his name 3 times in her heart. Seeing that she wanted to remember his name so earnestly, Dario could not help but smile as his gaze became gentler. "Sleep well." When they finished talking, he turned around and walked to the other bedroom. Jade stared at the tightly shut door and whispered softly, "Good night." At peace, her consciousness swirled in the land of dreams, oblivious to the physical world. For some reason, she was able to sleep even more at ease in this unfamiliar environment than in her own house. If her good friend Violet did not call her the next morning, she would keep on sleeping. After the phone rang for the 3rd time, Jade picked up the phone. Before she could say anything, her friend had already started scolding her. "Jade, where have you been? Do you know how many times I've called you?" Sorry, I was too tired." "Oh yeah, what's the matter?" "I almost forgot to tell you, you weren't here yesterday, so you might not know. There's a production crew coming to our university today. They're saying that they'll be choosing an actress for an important role. This time, it won't be just a background actress role. The whole school is in uproar. Our teacher is searching everywhere for you and says that you'll have the highest chance of obtaining the role." Jade woke up instantly. She lifted the blanket and gently slapped her face. After realizing that this was not a dream, she asked excitedly, "Really? When will it be?" "This afternoon. Just come over as soon as possible to pry for information first. I'll talk to you later." "Okay, I will go now." As Jade hung up the phone, she felt lighthearted. The reason that she chose her major was to earn money, and if she could get an important role in a TV series, she could earn a lot more money to save her grandmother. Therefore, every time there was an audition, she would take the opportunity seriously. She had to hurry. She went outside to search for Dario and wanted to tell him that she was going to leave. However, after searching for some time, she still could not find him. She was unable to see it clearly last night, but today she realized that his mansion was extremely luxurious. Every painting on the wall was very valuable, but she did not have time to appreciate them this morning. She could not find him, so she would have to leave anyway. She would explain to him where she went the next time she saw him. She really had to get going. When she was about to leave, the butler offered her a ride to the university, but she refused and only asked for the location of the bus stop. After a short walk, she arrived at the bus stop and took the next bus. Episode 24. The Million-Worthy Dress. While she was on the bus, her aunt called her several times, which caused the people on the bus to keep staring at her. She felt she had no choice but to answer. Just as she picked up the phone, a familiar and sharp voice sounded from the other end. "Jade, you sure are getting bold, huh? Did you sneak out again last night? Remember to come to the Scoville Club this afternoon. Mr. Victor Carson will be waiting for you there." Before Suzanne could finish her sentence, Jade replied, "I'm not free," and immediately hung up the phone. When she was in despair the day before, she actually thought about death as a way to avoid arranging the marriage. But that was before Dario's words made her realize something. Death was not that simple. She must stay alive and live well. She was determined to do even better than her family. Also, she had to earn more money so that she would not have to worry about her grandmother's medical fees anymore. After she made it to the university, Jade was planning to go straight to the audition room. But just then, she remembered that she had gotten her dress dirty while sitting by the road last night, so she decided to go back to the dorm to get changed. However, she did not expect that Ashley, a sharp-eyed girl that she shared a dorm with, would recognize her clothes the moment she returned. Ashley even stared at Jade with a weird look on her face and spoke in a jealous tone. "Hey, Jade, have you found yourself a sugar daddy? Or have you become someone's lover? You're wearing a Prada dress." As she spoke, she walked up and touched the dress out of jealousy, thinking that it must be a fake. But after a while, she realized it was real. The jealousy in her eyes even deepened. Jade took a step back and said with disgust, "What do you mean? What Prada dress?" In fact, she'd never heard about that brand. "Tsk, what do I mean? Do you know that this dress is worth millions? What's the matter? Are you afraid that others might gossip about you being someone's lover?" Ashley rolled her eyes at Jade. "Mind your words, I'm not anyone's lover," Jade said indifferently. She knew that Ashley always spoke rashly, but this time, Ashley had gone too far. Did she need to be someone's lover to wear expensive clothes? However, she did not expect that this dress was worth so much. Hundreds of dollars meant a lot to her, not to mention millions. Therefore, she was incredibly surprised when Ashley said it cost millions. "Do the clothes you usually wear cost more than $100? How could a poor person like you be able to afford a Prada dress? If you're not someone's mistress, then you must be a thief. You must have stolen it from someone else." Ashley stared at Jade in disdain while mocking her. "Ashley, how could you say that? Maybe she just sold her body?" Taylor, another girl in the dorm, added. "Stop. Look at her. She couldn't make that much money in a night unless the man was blind." "That's true." The two girls mercilessly belittled Jade. Jade's face sunk and her eyes blazed with fire. Even if she disliked them, she had never badmouthed them, and she would never have thought they would think of her that way. They looked down on her just because she was poor. Jade smirked and glanced at them coldly as she said with indifference, "Did you hear the two dogs barking? It's so noisy." "What dog? I don't see a dog. Are you insane?" Ashley did not understand at first. When she did, fires of fury and hatred smoldered in her small and narrowed eyes. "Jade, how dare you call me a dog?" Ashley glared at her furiously as if she was going to slice her up into pieces. Jade looked at her with an innocent expression and said, "What, did I say it was you? You admitted it yourself." Ashley was enraged. Jade felt delighted as she watched Ashley become angrier, since she had disliked Ashley for a long time now. Normally she would tolerate their cruel and humiliating words, which caused them to think she was a pushover. "Jade, you haven't attended class for a few days now? And today you're back for the audition, aren't you?" Taylor asked. As Taylor spoke, Ashley's expression became even more ferocious, as if she wanted to devour Jade. Before Jade could say anything, Ashley said to her in disdain, "Jade, let me tell you, the lead actress for the new movie belongs to me. Don't even think about it." Jade rolled her eyes and ignored Ashley. Then Jade grabbed some clothes that looked decent and walked towards the change room. After changing, she realized that the red dress in her hand was beautiful indeed. The V-neck looked fashionable, sexy, and simple. The hemline of the dress looked like a lotus leaf right above the knees. It was neither too ostentatious nor too conservative, and the waistline suited her perfectly. Jade stared blankly at the dress. She loved it and thought it was really beautiful. But when she thought about how much Ashley said it cost, she panicked. She felt that she did not deserve it, and if it was really worth that much, she should wash it and return it to Dario. When she thought about Dario, Jade recalled what happened between them the previous night. She remembered how he had kissed her, and that his fragrance made her blush instantly. She then slapped herself on the face and told herself not to overthink things. She thought that she should hurry up and go to the audition. Suddenly, she heard the change room door closing from the outside and sensed something was wrong. Immediately, she wanted to leave and tried to rush out, but she realized the door was locked. She twisted and turned the doorknob with all her might. She was getting very anxious. The only possibility that flashed through her mind was that someone had locked the door. "Ashley, what are you trying to do?" Jade shouted as she slammed against the door. However, Ashley, who was standing on the other side of the door, did not bother to open the door for her. Instead, she put the key in her pocket and calmly left. This is for calling me a dog. Have fun staying there," Ashley said in disdain. Taylor silently watched from the side and did not say a word because she knew Ashley wanted to stop Jade from going to the audition. Their professors had told them that Jade was perfectly suited for the role and had the highest chance of getting it. But if they stopped Jade from making it to the audition, they would have a better chance of being chosen. Although Ashley always looked down on Jade, Ashley was actually jealous of her acting skill and wanted to humiliate her in every way possible. Jade kept slamming on the door, but all she could hear was their footsteps getting further and further away. She tried to shout for help from anyone passing by, but time went by and no one came. It was an important day as one of the well-known film directors had come to their university. Even students from the other courses had gone to watch the show. Who else would still want to be in the dorm when the audition was about to start so soon? Jade's slamming on the door became quieter as time went by, and she ended up collapsing on the ground. Would she really lose such a rare opportunity? Episode 25. You already miss me? Violet, pick up the phone. Jade continued to slam on the door as she called Violet's phone, but Violet did not pick up any of Jade's calls. Maybe she did not hear her phone ringing. The worst thing was that Jade's room was at the end of the corridor, so even the dorm keeper would not hear her, and she couldn't climb down the building because she was on the 5th floor. What should I do? Who else could help her? Jade quickly scrolled through her phone contacts to see whether there was anyone else she could call. Her family members would not help her, and since her roommates looked down on her, they would be unwilling to save her too. Finally, she noticed an unfamiliar number in her contacts. The strangest thing was, beside that number it said, "Call this number when you miss me." What did that mean? Why could she not remember saving this number? Because she was in a hurry to find someone to help her, she did not think too much about it and called a few friends from the university who she was on good terms with. However, everyone either answered that they were busy or that they were not at the university. One friend said that she would come and get her, but she ended up not coming. It was only at this critical moment that Jade realized how helpless she was. Once again, she desperately scrolled through the contact list in her phone for the number that she had left. Sadly, she realized there was no other number she could call. She could not call the emergency number. Could she? In the end, her gaze came to the unfamiliar number again. She was stunned for a moment and clenched her teeth. She said to herself, "Forget it. Who cares who he is? I have no other choice right now." In the worst case scenario, she could just call her professor. She dialed the number hesitatingly and held the phone in her hand. She felt conflicted. The unknown person answered in just a second, and a familiar voice sounded from the other end. "What's the matter? We've only been apart for a few hours. You already miss me." Jade was stupefied when she heard that gentle yet seductive voice. What was going on? It was his voice. She stared at the unfamiliar number and the written note on the phone. She asked in disbelief, "Are you Mr. Foster?" Yesterday, she recited his name several times, so she remembered it very clearly. Moreover, his voice was so unique and seductive that she knew it the moment she heard it. Dario did not answer, but continued with his earlier question. You miss me. This time, Dario was not asking a question, but he said it with certainty. Faced with Dario's domineering tone, Jade was speechless because she did not expect that the unknown number would be Dario's. She thought it was strange and wondered when she had saved his number in her phone. Could he have added his number when she was asleep? Did he see her sleeping face too? Jade could feel the heat growing on her cheeks when she thought of that possibility. If you don't say anything, I'm hanging up. The person on the other end of the line seemed a little irritated. Jade instantly came to her senses and stammered as she replied, No. Oh, no? Then why did you call me? Dario's baritone voice sounded even more domineering, as if he wanted her to admit that she missed him. I didn't know it was you. Jade was on the verge of breaking down. She sighed and thought she would forget it. She had given up arguing with this man because she would need an IQ of 200 to argue with him. Didn't you see what was written beside the number? Why did you call if you didn't know it was me? Tell me, who was on your mind just now? She knew he was talking about the note that said, Call this number when you miss me. But the main point was that she did not miss him. Jade was about to cry from his questions. She thought, Oh God, I was just making a phone call. Why did he make it sound like a prisoner interrogation? Who did she think? She thought, Damn it, I wasn't thinking of anyone. She was just searching for people who could help her. Jade sighed helplessly and said, Forget it, I've called the wrong number. I called you by accident. If there's nothing else, I'll just... Before she finished her sentence, he took the initiative to ask, Are you all right? He was certain that he heard anxiety in her voice from the beginning. He thought that something must have happened to her. Jade was stunned for a moment and replied, It's nothing. She had already troubled him yesterday, so she did not want to cause him any more trouble. Are you clasping your palm again? Do you think I'm joking with you? As he spoke, Jade subconsciously looked down at her left hand and realized that she was actually clasping her palm. At that moment, she was shocked beyond belief. It was as though she could feel Dario beside her. She thought, Damn, could it be that he secretly installed a CCTV camera next to me? Otherwise, how could he know everything? Don't overthink. I didn't install CCTV on you. Tell me now, what's the matter? The usually indifferent Dario actually said this with a trace of concern and anxiety. Jade's mouth was wide open. She felt that she had met a god. She wondered how he could know everything. Tell me now. On the other hand, Jade was still in a daze, and Dario was urging her to tell him about what happened. With a glimmer of hope that he might come and save her, she told him the truth. A well-known film director came to my university for an audition, but my classmates locked me up in my dorm change room. Got it. Jade was about to ask him whether he could help, but he had already hung up the phone. She stared at the black screen. Her eyes were filled with disappointment, but she forced a smile and said to herself, What are you thinking? Why would he come to save you? It's none of his business anyway. Maybe he was just asking. Jade sighed and put away her phone. She gave up and did not want to make any more calls. In the car. Go to Stonington University, Dario said right after hanging up the phone. Lucas revealed a look of disbelief and asked in surprise, What? Did he hear wrongly? Are you deaf? Dario asked as he glanced at him with sharp eyes, and Lucas's attitude immediately weakened. Lucas continued to drive in the direction of the company and asked tentatively, But Dario, there's a meeting at 9 o'clock. This time the United States government has specifically sent a senior executive for the discussion. If you don't attend, I'm afraid they'll feel angered. We're arriving at the company soon, so whatever it is, can't we go after the meeting? Lucas was upset because this business was worth billions of dollars. But Dario had already called Secretary Jensen to tell him to cancel the meeting. Dario didn't explain the reason and hung up the phone. Then he said these two words to Lucas indifferently. Get lost. What? I'll drive myself. Lucas could not help but jump from fear when he saw the sharp gaze and seriousness on Dario's face. He immediately turned the car around and drove in the direction of Stonington University. No, Dario Foster, you're the boss. Why would you drive the car yourself? 10 minutes. Dario said, without lifting his head. Episode 26. What are you up to? Lucas's face twitched. He immediately sped up to 150 kilometers per hour and drove toward the university. He lost count of the red lights he had run through and the police cars that chased after them, but gave up after seeing Dario's license plate. 9 minutes later, Lucas wiped off the cold sweat from his forehead and stopped the car. He was relieved that he made it on time. He did not dare to be Dario's driver without the Fast and Furious technique. In the dorm, Jade said to herself, "Forget it, Jade, just give up. No one will help you. What could you do even if you attended the audition? With so many people around, you would not be selected. For your entire life, you will only be able to play insignificant roles." She sat on the chilling floor with a poker face. However, just when she was feeling utter despair, there was a sudden knock on the door. Jade immediately jumped up from the floor. There was someone there, Jade said to herself. When one door shuts, another opens. Who's out there? Jade hurriedly stood up and shouted excitedly. Who do you think? A calm and mellow voice sounded outside the door. Jade could hardly believe it. It can't be Dario? Is that you? Oh God, why did he come? Something didn't seem right. How did he know she was here? Who else could it be other than me? It's really you. Jade took a stool and climbed to the small window on the washstand. She saw Dario, who wore a tidy suit and looked handsome as he stood at the door. Dario lifted his head and gazed at her with an enigmatic smile. What's the matter? Are you happy to see me? At that moment, Jade felt as if her heart was about to pound out of her chest. No, can you do me a favor? Sure, Dario said to her straightforwardly. Can you open the door for me? The door was locked from the outside. Jade looked at him with puppy eyes and pleaded with him. Even if she did not ask, Dario would still have helped her. However, when he saw her begging him, Dario's heart was touched. He had an evil smile as he stared into her eyes and said indifferently, Sure, but what can you do for me if I help you? Jade did not put too much thought into what she said. All she wanted to do was get out of there as soon as possible, so she blurted out, I'll do anything for you. Oh? Are you sure? Dario's gaze instantly sharpened upon hearing her. There seemed to be another meaning behind his words. Without waiting for Jade to reconsider, Dario asked, Where's the key? Oh, it's here. Jade immediately took out the key from her pocket and threw it to him. In just a second, the door was open. Jade was very grateful and excited. Yeah, that's great. As soon as the door opened, she saw a pair of shiny leather shoes step into her dorm room. He was wearing a black suit, which made him look sedate and noble. Not a single trace of emotion could be seen on his handsome face. The room seemed incompatible with his expression. He looked even nobler beside Jade, who was wearing cheap clothes. Jade did not really expect him to come after they talked on the phone. He was like a god who always appeared during her hard times. Jade stumbled, forgetting that she was standing on a stool. She slipped and fell in the direction where Dario stood. Just when she thought she was going to die from the pain, Dario quickly reached out his hand and caught her. Jade was frightened out of her wits and wrapped her arms around his neck in a panic. She also did not notice that Dario's eyes were full of nervousness and worry. Can't wait to repay your gratitude. I never said that a hug would be enough. Dario embraced her delicate body and smirked. He hugged her even more tightly, afraid that she might fall again. Jade leaned against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Only then did she come back to her senses and escape from his embrace. She looked at him with an embarrassed expression. She felt that the situation was too embarrassing for her. She secretly looked at him and realized that he was dressed very formally that day. Even his hair was well combed. He must have had an important meeting to attend. Thank you. Jade had lost count of how many times she had thanked him. You're welcome. I didn't save you for nothing. Dario squinted his eyes and revealed a smile. Seeing that she was about to struggle out of his embrace, he immediately tightened his grip. Jade was so close to Dario that it made her feel uncomfortable. She really wanted to escape, but the more she struggled, the tighter he hugged her. So, she just stopped moving. Mr. Foster, please let go of me. I'm fine now, Jade whispered as she lowered her head. She did not know why, but she felt suffocated every time she saw him. Didn't you just say that you would do anything for me? Dario lowered his star-like eyes as he looked into her eyes. His seductive voice made her have wild thoughts. Then what do you want me to do? Jade's heart trembled. She really could not read his thoughts. Dario stared at her without saying a word, and the smile on his face made her feel extremely uneasy. Jade restlessly twisted her waist, and she blushed instantly. She shouted loudly, "I won't let you do that. Other than that, I'm fine with anything." "Oh, that thing? What do you mean by that thing?" Dario looked at her rosy face with a faint smile and pretended to not understand what she was saying. Jade did not answer. He always had a way of making her speechless. "You're the one who said it. You told me not to do that again, or you'll break my legs," Jade said in a domineering tone as she imitated his words. Dario burst into laughter when he saw her imitate him. Was that not what he said yesterday? "You can really remember my words well." Dario squinted his eyes and stared at her. Jade lowered her head in embarrassment and was about to clasp her hands. However, when she thought about Dario's fearsome look, she resisted the urge. "Tisk, tisk, what are you thinking? You look so innocent, but your thoughts are filthy." Dario patted her on her little head. Jade almost fainted. She's filthy? Was he not the one who taught her all these things? Episode 27. Grandmother in Trouble. Seeing her anxiety, Dario could not help but reassure her. "Don't worry. I won't let you do that. It's just, I still haven't made up my mind. I've got a very good memory, so one day you'll have to pay me back." Jade did not notice the hint of danger behind his smile. "Right, I almost forgot. I still have to go to the audition." Jade slapped her thigh. Dario had her so distracted she'd almost forgotten about the audition. She broke free of his embrace, appearing quite flustered. On her way out, she paused to apologize, saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Foster. Thank you for rescuing me. I promise to repay you. I have to go now. Goodbye." With that, she jogged away without a glance back, leaving Dario frozen in place. He left shortly after her. Upon seeing Dario and his car, everyone in the dorm bubbled with excitement. "Wow, so handsome. Gosh, that person looks so familiar. I think I've seen him on TV." They watched him step into the Maserati that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and screamed, "Oh my God, he's handsome and rich? Why would such a rich, good-looking man come to a place like this?" Jade left quickly after seeing such chaos. She could hardly get out the door because it was so crowded with girls who were watching Dario. After escaping the crowd, Jade heaved a sigh of relief. She turned back, staring at the car in which she had ridden twice, and her eyes widened with astonishment. Dario Foster was so popular. Then she rushed to the venue that Violet had texted her about. She had told Jade that the well-known film director, Cade Sape, was there, looking for an actress for one of his new TV shows. Since youth was the theme of the series and he wanted new faces, the director had decided to hold auditions at Stonington University. Plus, she'd heard that there were other unfilled roles. Jade pressed her hands to her cheeks, whispering encouragement to herself. She hardly dreamed of snagging the lead female role. As long as she got a speaking part, she would be thrilled. The audition was scheduled for a room on the second floor, but eager participants were lined up all the way down to the first floor. It was obvious how popular this series was. Jade frowned as she gazed at the sea of people. She felt her heart flutter. They wouldn't finish before her chance, would they? She completed the registration form anyway, then joined the end of the line. Her turn fully arrived at almost noon. Just then, her phone rang. When Jade saw that it was Sheila Mason calling, she suddenly had a bad feeling. Mrs. Mason was the nurse caring for her grandmother. She was not only incredibly kind, but she would definitely call if there was anything wrong. Nervously, she picked up the call asking, "Sheila? What's the matter?" Sure enough, an emotional voice filled her ears. "Jade, something terrible has happened. Please, come to the hospital as soon as possible." "What's wrong?" Jade's heart dropped. She felt adrenaline coursing through her system. It was shutting down her ability to think clearly when she remembered what Aunt Suzanne had said yesterday. They couldn't really be plotting against her grandmother, could they? The inhumanity! Your aunt sent someone to the hospital today to stop payment on your grandmother's hospital bills. Come now. If someone doesn't pay the bill by tomorrow, I'm afraid the hospital will have to discharge your grandmother. Even now, they've stopped giving her medications." What? Jade felt as if she'd been stabbed in the heart. She'd never expected that the Winslet family could be so cruel. "Mrs. Mason, I'm begging you, please take care of my grandma. I'll be there right away." Jade was on the verge of tears. "Okay, but I won't be able to stay for too long. I'm just a nurse, after all. I can't meddle in the hospital's affairs," Sheila said with embarrassment. "Yes, I understand." After hanging up, Jade immediately called her aunt. Suzanne Winslet seemed to be expecting Jade's call. She sounded exceptionally calm. She didn't even speak with her usual sarcasm. "Oh, my dear Jade, I didn't expect you to call again. Oh, I see. You must have got the hospital's notification," Aunt Suzanne said with fake sweetness in her voice. "Aunt Suzanne, where's your humanity? How can you toy with someone's life?" Hearing her aunt's cruelty, Jade dropped all pretense of politeness. The smile on Suzanne's face disappeared and she said coldly, "Jade Winslet, don't you know what's good for you? You selfish child, do you have any idea how much we've spent on your grandmother? We may have been generous enough to pay for her medications in the past, but we're not obligated to keep doing so." "What? Generous? Bullshit. I'm selfish? You've stolen my father's inheritance. Who's selfish here?" Anger lit up Jade's eyes like lightning on a pitch-black night. Aunt Suzanne's face contorted. Just when she was about to spill over into rage, she composed herself and spoke calmly. "Well, Jade, you can say whatever you want. I've already told you, yes, your father did leave you some money, but you've already spent it on college. And now, your only option is to come to the VIP room of the Scoville Club immediately. You've already stood him up once. This time I won't cover for you. Oh, right, I forgot. You can choose not to come, but then you'll have to watch your grandmother die as a result." "You monster! Don't think I'm bluffing. If you don't believe me, go ahead and try me." After she finished speaking, Suzanne immediately hung up the phone, exploding with anger. Jade's heart filled with hatred as she gripped her phone tightly. Did the Winslets really want to corner her like this? "Jade Winslet, you're up." The audition manager seated at the entrance shouted. "Jade Winslet, where's Jade Winslet? Are you here?" The manager shouted again. Everyone's gaze rested on Jade as she took a step back. At that moment, the only thing on her mind was her grandmother. How could she even think of auditioning? Even if she could forget her grandmother for the sake of an audition, her heart wouldn't be in it. How could she possibly summon her wits to perform? No, she had to go to the hospital. "Jade Winslet, is this you?" the manager asked impatiently. "I am." "Well then please go in now. You only have one chance." Jade faced the manager and said with tears in her eyes, "I'm sorry I have to leave now. I'm so sorry to trouble you." Then she rushed from the school as fast as she could. Along the way, her tears burst forth like water from a dam, spilling down her face. She was so worried about her grandmother that she didn't even notice the car that was following her. Episode 28. The CEO bought a bus. "Huh? That's weird. Is that Miss Winslet? Why didn't she go inside for her audition?" Lucas gripped the steering wheel and kept his eyes on the second floor as he observed the situation. Before Mr. Foster had even ordered it, Lucas had begun following Jade. The whole time Secretary Jensen kept calling, probably wanting to talk to Dario about the meeting. However, when he saw Dario's expression, Lucas didn't dare answer the call. He sighed to himself. It seemed that hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business was about to go down the drain. 3 years of hard work. Lucas never expected Dario to give it all up for a woman he'd only just met. Was she really that important to him? Jade rushed through the university gate and sprinted towards the bus stop. Since she had no cash on her, she had to use her bus card. It was rush hour, and many people were waiting for the bus. The only bus headed to the hospital was already full. Many more people were trying to crowd onto the bus. Jade pushed as hard as she could, but when she got close to the door, she could not squeeze full. "It's full. Please wait for the next one," the driver told Jade impatiently. He put his hand on the button to close the door and was about to leave. "I'm so sorry, but it's an emergency. Can you please let me on?" Jade pleaded. "There are no seats left. Get off." The driver didn't care, and the people on the bus were getting angry. "Hey, driver, let's go. We've been waiting way too long." "Look, miss, there's too many people here already. Get off the stairs." "Yeah." Jade was forced off the bus. She stood there, smiling bitterly as she watched it drive away. It would take at least half an hour for the next bus to arrive. What if it were full too? She had to get to the hospital immediately. "Boss, should we give Miss Winslet a ride?" Lucas asked, seeing everything unfold before his eyes. Dario lowered his gaze as he stared at Jade, who was stomping her feet in frustration. Seeing her agony, he felt it as if it was his own. "Go, buy me that bus, and fire that driver immediately," Dario commanded, ignoring Lucas's petrified face. He had all kinds of cars in his mansion, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, and more. But a bus? That would be a first. "Mr. Foster, are you sure?" Lucas gazed at him doubtfully. 10 minutes. With only 2 words, he immediately understood what Dario wanted. He picked up the phone and got to work. "I want that bus to appear in front of her within 10 minutes. Other than the driver, no one else should be on board." "Yes, I'll deal with it immediately." Lucas sent his underlings to contact the bus company. About 7 to 8 minutes later, Jade was surprised to see an empty bus roll to a stop in front of her. She was petrified that she had missed the next bus, and here was an empty one. This was better than winning the lottery. A few other people tried to get on the bus, but the driver kicked them all off. Only Jade was allowed on. She got on the bus, feeling everyone's eyes on her. She felt strange, but she really didn't care. As long as she could get to the hospital as soon as possible, it was more than enough. What was even stranger was that the driver made no other stops on the way to the hospital. Usually the ride took half an hour, but it took only 10 minutes today. It was simply VIP service. Because she was frantic to see her grandmother, she didn't put too much thought into it, figuring she was just lucky. But when she got to the hospital, someone else was already in her grandmother's room. Jade panicked. She immediately called Sheila Mason. Only then did she learn that the hospital had already given away her grandmother's room and was planning to discharge her. Sheila had taken pity on her grandmother and moved her into her own office to rest. When Jade saw her gaunt, exhausted grandmother, her tears streamed down her cheeks. By the time she reached the office, her grandmother was already asleep on a small bed that could not have been more than 4 feet long. She covered her mouth, afraid that she would wake her grandmother with her wail of anguish. She never dreamed the hospital would move so fast. Hospitals were supposed to be places for saving someone's life. How could they have done this? All these merciless people broke Jade's heart. "It's all because I'm useless. I'm sorry, Grandma." Jade's throat tightened, her words hoarse. Sheila patted on her shoulder, comforting her. "Jade, don't be sad. I've slipped her some medicine, so she's fine now, but she needs surgery as soon as possible. You must think of a way. I've done all I can for you." Jade gratefully grasped the nurse's hand and said, "Dear Mrs. Mason, thank you. I understand." "Jade, there's one more thing." Sheila looked at her. "What is it?" Jade wiped away her tears, feeling her anxiety surge. She knew this would be bad news. Sheila held up a list. It was the debt accumulated from her grandmother's medical bills. Aunt Suzanne had taken back all the money from the advance payment, so her grandmother's hospital expenses for this month had not been paid, for a total of $300,000. Jade sat stupefied, her face turning ghostly white. $300,000? To the penniless Jade, this was an astronomical figure. Her body started to tremble as she clutched the list. There was only one thought on her mind. What should I do? What on earth can I do? Where in the world can I find this much money? Jade, I know you don't have much money on you, but you have to resolve this as soon as possible. Didn't your aunt always pay for your grandma's care? Why did she take back all the money? Did you two quarrel? If so, you should apologize to her immediately, Sheila advised. Jade smiled bitterly. Quarrel? Apologize? If only it were that simple. Jade leaned against the door in despair. She then took a deep breath and took Sheila's hand nervously, pleading, Mrs. Mason, I beg you. I know I'm putting you in a difficult situation, but can you please look after my grandma again? I'll need to leave for a while. As for money, I will find a way to pay. The nurse sighed helplessly and said, I'll look after her for a while, but don't take too long. I still have to work, you know. Jade nodded. I understand, but there's no other way now. Go ahead. Okay, dear Mrs. Mason, I'll leave my grandma to you. Episode 29. Sold to an old man. The first thing Jade did after leaving the hospital was call her aunt. Suzanne Winslet picked up the phone right away. Immediately, her voice oozed with ridicule. So, how is it? Have you thought it through? Let me remind you, you have just half an hour. If you don't come, there's nothing else I can do. Jade clenched her fists, suppressing the urge to curse her aunt, and struggled to keep her voice calm. For her grandmother, it was what she had to do. I'll go, but you have to promise me that you'll get my grandma back into her room first. The hospital is going to discharge her and the bills... Before Jade could finish, her aunt interrupted her and said dismissively, Don't talk to me about that now. You have no right to negotiate with me. Don't worry, I'm not merciless. Once you have a set date to marry Victor Carson, your grandmother will be able to go back to her ward. Besides, you won't have to worry about her medical bills ever again. Mr. Carson is generous. He is offering $2 million as a gift. I hope you will perform well and don't disappoint him. Knowing that Jade had given in, Aunt Suzanne could not help but grin arrogantly. After raising this outsider for so long, finally, they could sell her off for a good price. Suzanne never expected that that child of that bitch would turn out to be so valuable. Jade revealed a disdainful smile. $2 million. So her aunt sold her out just for money. What did she think she was? A prostitute? Or something that could be traded? Jade was furious and wanted to get out of her aunt's sight. But in the end, she remained silent. She wiped away her tears, silently left, and called a taxi to the Scoville Club. She was not worried about the fare for the taxi. She was sure that her lovely aunt would pay for it. When she arrived at the Scoville Club, she called her aunt right away. After a short while, Aunt Suzanne came out to collect her and even paid the fare, before leading her to the hidden VIP room. The Scoville Club was indeed a gathering place for wealthy people. It was very classy inside and out. Jade could feel the vibe as soon as she entered the building. She looked like an outcast because she was dressed casually. Even the waiters stared at her strangely. She thought if Aunt Suzanne hadn't come out to pick her up, these people would have chased her out of the club. When they reached the door, Aunt Suzanne took a close look at Jade's outfit. Why are you dressed like this to meet Mr. Carson? Don't you know how to dress up? Jade remained silent, sneering inwardly. Right, nice clothes. Was Suzanne kidding? She'd been in the Winslet family for many years. When had her aunt ever bought her any presentable clothes? The clothes she wore were either those that Ivana threw away or things that the family bought her occasionally to save face. However, she never wore any of those clothes. Is that little Jadey? Come in and let me have a look. A voice came from the VIP room. Jade frowned, feeling somewhat disgusted that this stranger called her by such a familiar name, as if they were close. When Aunt Suzanne heard him, she patted Jade's shoulder and then whispered in her ear with a warning tone. Do a good job. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. She then switched to a kind voice as she pulled Jade into the room. Mr. Carson, this is our Jadey I've been telling you about. I'm so sorry. This girl is really too silly. She didn't dress up. Just came straight over from school. Aunt Suzanne explained with some embarrassment. In front of this man, Aunt Suzanne was deferential. Even her eyes were filled with respect. But Jade didn't even know who he was. Jade stood motionlessly with a blank expression on her face. Her heart was already shattered into pieces. She felt no different from a piece of meat being sold in the market. Sitting in the middle of the room was a bald, middle-aged man of about 50 years old. He was wearing a suit, but he looked more like a gangster than a businessman, which made Jade extremely uncomfortable.
My dear Mrs. Winslet, stop. Jade is well-dressed, isn't she? That's the kind of girl I like. Down to earth. She's young and pretty, but she's also a cultured university student. Huh.
Victor Carson sized her up from head to toe, eyes filled with satisfaction and cunning thoughts.
Jade is so much prettier in person than in the photos.
Ever since Jade walked in, Carson's gaze had been on her.
As long as Mr. Carson likes her.
Aunt Suzanne was overjoyed. She had not expected Victor Carson to like her so much.
I like it. I like it. Such a beautiful young lady. What man wouldn't be moved by her?
Victor Carson did not have any other interests. He only wanted young, pure university students. Moreover, if the girl was a virgin, he would pay a very high price. But university girls these days did not cherish their purity. It was extremely difficult to find a virgin. When he heard about Jade, he had decided instantly to buy her. Jade sat to the side and listened to their discussion without a trace of expression on her beautiful face. She'd been wondering how someone could be interested in her without knowing her. And now she realized that someone was holding her picture. So this was the scheme that Aunt Suzanne had planned since the very beginning. How despicable.
I'm glad you like her so much.
Then she hinted.
So, about that, Mr. Carson, I wonder when you would like to marry our Jadie. Mrs. Winslet, don't worry about it. I, Victor Carson, will keep my word. I am very satisfied with Jadie, and I will give you $5 million as a marriage gift. As for the time, don't worry. I'll pick a propitious day to marry her,
Mr. Carson said grandly, with a cigar in his mouth, as if the money meant nothing to him at all. Jade sat frozen. What? $5 million? Huh? Aunt Suzanne had told her they would only be getting $2 million. Seems like she wanted to pocket the $3 million for herself. Huh? Selling Jade for $5 million and taking out $300,000 to pay her grandmother's bills. How generous. About that marriage, Auntie, isn't this happening too fast? I haven't gotten to know Mr. Carson properly yet. Jade lowered her head, acting as if she was shy. Aunt Suzanne's face changed dramatically, suspecting that Jade was going to ruin things, and she hissed in Jade's ear.
What are you trying to do? Are you tired of living?
Then loudly she said,
Mr. Carson, this child is full of nonsense. Please don't mind her.
Victor Carson waved his hand nonchalantly. It made him want Jade even more.
It's fine. Jade is right. We should get to know each other better first.
Mr. Carson leered, revealing his yellow teeth. Episode 30. Aunt Suzanne gets a lesson. How about this, Auntie? Let me have a nice chat with Mr. Carson. After all, marriage is a lifetime's matter. I don't want things to be so casual, Jade said, throwing a flirty glance at Victor as if she was hinting at something. He swelled with joy and resisted the urge to pounce on her. By this point, he felt Aunt Suzanne was just in the way. So he said,
Mrs. Winslet, if there's nothing else, you can leave. Jadie and I will stay here and chat for a while. Come, Jadie, sit next to me and let me have a good look at you.
Jade resisted the urge to vomit and slowly moved to the sofa where Mr. Carson was sitting with difficulty.
All right, I'm leaving. I don't want to disturb your lovey-dovey time.
Before Aunt Suzanne left, she glanced at Jade as if warning her to not ruin the plan, while pretending to care about her. "Ah, sweet Jadey. Auntie will leave for now. Enjoy your time with Mr. Carson. Call me if you need anything." "Don't worry, Auntie. Nothing bad will happen when I'm here with Mr. Carson," Jade said, smiling sweetly. Her eyes, however, were filled with disgust and loathing. When Aunt Suzanne noticed that Mr. Carson's eyes were full of Jade, she left the room. Before departing the Scoville Club, Suzanne went to the restroom. She had no idea that from the moment she entered the restroom, it was the beginning of her nightmare. She never saw the masked man staring at her from behind. When she was about to leave the stall, she found that the door was locked. Suzanne knocked on it until she realized it seemed to be locked from the outside. She began to panic. "Hey, is anyone out there? What's going on? Let me out now." Aunt Suzanne saw a pair of men's shoes under the crack of the door and became flustered. She thought it was a robbery. But this was not a place that ordinary people could enter. Anyone in the Scoville Club had to be a VIP member. "Who are you? What do you want?" Aunt Suzanne asked fearfully. The mysterious man outside said nothing and simply picked up a white bucket. Just as Aunt Suzanne was about to call for help, she was instantly drenched with water as the mysterious man flung the bucket of water over the top of the stall door. She screamed as the water soaked her to the skin. "Ah, who are you?" Her carefully styled hair was instantly ruined. Her clothes were drenched and clung to her body. Worst of all, the clothes she was wearing were somewhat sheer, and now that they were soaked, they became transparent. Even her underwear was discernible. She could not have been more humiliated. Logically speaking, there should have been waiters all over the place. But strangely enough, the waiters were nowhere to be found. No matter how loudly Aunt Suzanne shouted, no one could hear her. She thought it was over. But even more terrifying things were yet to come. The mysterious man dumped a bucket of red paint on top of her. Suzanne struggled desperately in the bathroom stall. However, the space was tiny. There was nowhere for her to go. All she could do was stand and be drenched in red paint. The masked man outside the door nearly choked with laughter. Then he wiped the fingerprints from the can of paint and tossed it into the trash can. Finally, he removed the mop that was blocking the door to the stall. He threw away his hat and mask along the way, removed the "Do Not Enter" sign that had been placed at the entrance, and left in a flash. The whole process was quick and decisive. Under the mask, there was a familiar, handsome face. "Let me out of here! Who the hell are you? How dare you mess with me? Damn it, I will tear you to pieces." Aunt Suzanne threw her body against the door, not expecting it to fly open this time. But what happened next was even more embarrassing. Some Scoville Club patrons had come into the restrooms. Two famous actresses walked in, stared at Suzanne in shock, and walked out immediately. Only then did Suzanne grasp the seriousness of the situation. She was soaked from head to toe, wearing clothes that were covered in red paint. She rushed from the washroom recklessly like a madwoman. She had to get out of the club as soon as possible. Normally, the Scoville Club was a quiet, low-key place. But when Suzanne rushed into the first-floor lobby, she saw many famous wealthy people. They all turned to look at the ridiculous, pathetic figure. Worst of all, a woman in a designer dress recognized her immediately. "Hey, look, isn't that Suzanne Winslet?" Now the others stared at her even more intently. Under the gazes of these onlookers, Aunt Suzanne desperately wanted to dig a hole and hide. "Oh, right. Oops, Mrs. Winslet. What's going on? You haven't offended someone, have you?" "I'm not, Miss Winslet. I'm not." Aunt Suzanne covered her face with her hands. Damn it. How could she be recognized? Everyone in the lobby was staring. A few of the older businessmen saw her soaked body and began to tease. "Hey, Suzanne Winslet is going to put on a striptease for us. Man, I never knew she had such a great figure. Even her underwear looks sexy. Old man Winslet is lucky to have such a bold, unrestrained wife." When Aunt Suzanne heard them, she immediately covered her breasts with her arms, but that left her face revealed. So she covered her breasts with one hand and her face with the other, then awkwardly stumbled from the Scoville Club. Terrified of being recognized, she didn't even dare to ride in her own car. She tried to catch a taxi, but none would stop. In the end, after she waved a few $100 bills in the air, a taxi finally stopped to pick her up. What she did not yet understand was that her identity had long been exposed. Everyone in the lobby knew the name Mrs. Winslet. Now they even knew what sort of underwear this middle-aged lady was wearing. It was simply too embarrassing. Suzanne nearly burst into tears when she got into the taxi and recalled her pathetic appearance. In her entire life, she had never been bullied like this, much less humiliated in front of so many people. Most importantly, she'd been recognized by all of them. How could she ever face them again? Aunt Suzanne's face was deathly pale, and her eyes were filled with fear. She could still hardly believe it was real. The mocking voices echoed in her mind.